Hello everyone. Welcome back to Be the Whole You. My name is Gullveig, and it is again the full moon where we will be using the tarot to gain some clarity and insight as into how to best leverage this particular lunar alignment to serve our best and highest good. So this particular full moon, September 10th, 2022, is a full moon in Pisces. Neptune and Uranus are also playing some major roles here in the lunar alignment. Neptune is a planet that's associated with imagination, intuition, and dreams. In its shadowy aspect, however, it is associated with more with delusions and illusions. So that's something maybe to check in with. And then Uranus is a planet that's associated with change. It can bring up upheaval, but typically the feathers that are ruffled are usually feathers that need to be ruffled in order for things to change in an appropriate way. And then of course we have the Sun in Virgo. The Sun in Virgo is about organization, it's about strategizing, it's about planning, it's about clearing up the closets, putting the labels on the packages, that type of thing. Whereas Pisces, which our moon is in Pisces right now, is associated with dreams, imagination, and intuition. So because of Neptune, this Pisces full moon is somewhat supercharged. This is also the harvest moon, and this energy around the harvest moon is a really beautiful energy to be tapping into. It's very nourishing, especially because for the last month or so, we've had some lunar alignments that for a lot of folks have felt rather intense. So this harvest moon might bring about some harvest into whatever it is that you've been putting your energy into. This is the time of year in which our ancestors would be harvesting the crops and planning for winter. And it's also a time of abundance where we get to celebrate all of our hard work and get to celebrate what has grown from all of that hard work. And, plan for the future too. So, without further ado, let's take a look and see what the tarot has to say as far as how we can best utilize all of these energies to benefit us the best. Okay, so even if you're watching this in a recording, I invite you to just tap into the energy and to maybe set the intention that the pieces of the messages that flow through are going to be the pieces that are pertinent to you, will be the pieces that will really stand out so that you will have clarity. All right, so let's call upon our divine highest selves and let's ask for verbal eloquence, mental clarity, and open intuition. And we ask for clarity on how best to leverage this full moon in Pisces, September 10th, 2022, to serve our best and highest good. All right, so there was one card that came out of the deck with just general intention setting. And for those of you who may have had readings with me before and have had that happen, you know that when that happens, I look at that as kind of like, almost like a bonus. It may, or I don't know what the card is yet. I haven't flipped it over, but it can be something that is a message that's in addition to what it is that we're asking for. So it's kind of like, yes, and you need to know this. So let's see what that's about. Okay. So the card that just popped out of the deck is a card that is talking about what it is that needs to be healed in order to take advantage of all of the harvest that's literally just waiting in the field and waiting for you to harvest it. And that is past wounds and disappointments and maybe even a feeling of betrayal from others. That's the Ten of Swords. So the Ten of Swords is an individual. He's got a bunch of swords in his back. It's not the nicest imagery of any of the cards, but it insinuates that there are some past wounds and disappointments, and perhaps even literally being felt like we have been stabbed in the back, those are the things that are needing to be healed at this time in order for us to move forward. It's important, the next card that comes up, the very first card that came up when we actually asked the question, was the Princess of Swords. And this is about communication, it's about clear thought, and it's essentially about like cutting through the BS and getting to the heart of the matter. And that is something like that the Virgo energy from this lunar alignment is giving to us. If Virgo isn't anything, it is a energy that can help us really, with the analogy of harvest, separate the wheat from the chaff. So being able to separate what is useful and what is not useful. So this Virgo energy is really kind of a blessing with all of the Neptune and Piscean kind of energy, which without any kind of grounding sometimes can spiral us into realms of delusion and not really know like what's real and what's not. So this Virgo energy is something that can really help us to take full advantage of the intuition, the imagination, and even really powerful dreams and messages that we're getting that will probably be inviting us to do some forgiveness work. Now, the concept of forgiveness, when we've had things that have really, really hurt, that can be something that's rather triggering for some folks. But let's keep in mind that forgiveness is not about condoning behavior that was uncondonable. And it's not about giving somebody a free ride. It's about cutting cords, energetic cords that tether us into being a victim to a past event that it's time to free ourselves. So we forgive first and foremost for ourselves and for our own freedom and energetic sovereignty, not for other people. So we can also love people without loving their behavior. So if there have been some relationships that maybe you don't even really know quite exactly in what direction you want to take those relationships, there might be some decisions that we might be making. We might be at a crossroads as to how close we want to keep certain people. And one thing that's coming through that seems really important to say is we can love somebody without loving their behavior. And we can love somebody even from a distance. So even if we have to remove somebody from parts of our life, we don't necessarily have to remove them from our hearts. We can still have compassion, we can still have empathy, and still say, namaste away. So that leads us to these other cards, which, let me see, there's a lot of cards that came out for this one. Yeah, there are 7 cards total. So the next card that comes up is about money management. We have the 2 of Pentacles, and it's this guy who is holding these 2 coins and he's balancing them on one foot. And so there might be some decisions that we're making around finances and our and how we want to make our livelihood in the future, which comes to the next 2 cards. And the next 2 cards tell us how to do that. And the next 2 cards, the next one is the 4 of Swords reversed. When this comes up, it is like, no matter if it's right side up or upside down, this card is about it's time to rest, that we are exhausted, and that it's time to meditate, it's time to go within, it's time to rest. And actually it's in that resting that we're going to get the clarity that we seek. So if there are some of these decisions that, you know, we're not exactly sure what we're going to do, trying to pound our head up against the wall to get those answers is not going to produce very much at all except for a headache. What we are being invited to do is take a few steps back. And when we take a few steps back and take a pause to time out, we might be able to see the bigger picture. Which brings us to the Princess of Pentacles. And what's interesting about this particular card is that she actually has wheat in her hands, folks. Like we were just talking about the harvest moon. So this is actually a really beautiful invitation if we can take it, in that what we're being asked, what it's being said is like, you've done enough. You've done all the things. And now what's being invited is sometimes if we try to do too much, it's almost like we set our seed of intention and then we keep digging it up, seeing that if it sprouted or not. Did it sprout yet? Did it sprout yet? And in doing so, we're actually sabotaging the very thing that we're working so hard to manifest. So these cards are like, you know what, honey? You have done enough. You have done such a good job. You are enough. And now it's time to just rest back and wait for the harvest to come in. And then that might be something that might be difficult. The Ace of Cups reversed, it indicates that process of letting go and surrendering, not as in giving up, but making space for our desires to actually show up in our life, that in itself may be the healing work, that in itself may be the thing that's kind of difficult to do. And it might be difficult to do because of past experiences, the very first card that we were talking about, Ten of Swords, that maybe plant these seeds of thoughts that are not helpful around overdoing, workaholism, not being able to trust other people to pull their own weight. Those might be the things that might be difficult for us to be able to let go and allow the flow to happen. And even if there is some resistance to that, at the end of the day, the Strength card says that we all have the capacity to do this. The Strength card is our higher self taming the primal self. You have a lady who's dressed in white. She's petting the lion, and he is docile. He has been somewhat tamed, and it's because he's not afraid. When our primal self has a firm connection to our higher self, then it doesn't need to go into survival mode with overworking or worrying or anxiety or however it is that it shows up. It doesn't need to do that. So inner child work might be helpful at this time. Shadow work definitely would be helpful at this time. And just taking some time out would be helpful at this time. The other thing around the Ace of Cups and the Princess of Pentacles that I'm seeing here is that creative outlets would be really beneficial at this time because of the fact that we have all of this dreamy imagination, intuitive kind of energy, and Pisces is one of the most creative signs in the zodiac. So we've got so much creativity in the air right now that we may also find a lot of release, a lot of clarity, and a lot of releasing of stress just by allowing ourselves to have a creative outlet, whether that, and it doesn't have to be good, or quote unquote good art. It can just be for you. It can be something as simple as doodling. It could be sewing. It could be one of those adult coloring books. It could be something super simple. But allowing ourselves to have some creative expression would be very beneficial at this time. And I just want to see here what might happen as a result of letting go and letting flow. Just want to see. Okay. The first card that comes up is the Ten of Wands reversed, and when this card is reversed, it actually has a more positive association. And the Ten of Wands is this individual. He's got 10 wands. He's got this whole burden that he's trying to truck up this hill. And this is a card that is about working harder than what is necessary. And it's saying that if we let go and let flow, we will be able to just release the burden. There will be some lightness in our system. The Fool card reversed is stating that we will be able to have more firm footing and that will allow us to move ahead more strategically versus with impulsiveness or haste. And then we have the Nine of Pentacles. And the Nine of Pentacles is about sending our spirit out to go hunt down that which our spirit seeks. So the deep desires that make our hearts sing, not distractions, not just, entertainment, but the big stuff, the things that really give us joy, that if we slow down and let go and let flow, then we will be giving more space for our higher self to be able to create the synchronicities that allow us to attract all of the goodness in a much more graceful way. So change is in the air, and we have a couple of options here. If we try to force and to push and to trudge along, we could end up making these transitions in our life a lot more difficult. But all we have to do is just take a moment to sit back and to breathe and relax, and we'll be able to pass through what's coming to me as like the contractions of birth. We'll be able to relax into that. It doesn't mean there won't be sensation. It doesn't mean that there might be some discomfort around it, but there will be a sense that it's all going to be okay. And we'll be attracting those blessings in a lot more graceful way that attracts more ease, more health, and vitality. Whew, this is a good one. So enjoy this Pisces full moon. Write down your dreams, and write down any kind of inspirations, even if they seem nonsensical. You might end up finding that there are some real powerful messages. You may not understand them right away, but it might be clear later on. So enjoy the fresh inspiration, enjoy the imagination, and I look forward to seeing you back here in a couple weeks, where we will take a look at the new moon. Take care. Bye-bye.